Pressure continues to amount for Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin as Derevyanchenko speaks on his soon mandatory title shot. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Now, it keeps going from sugar to shit regarding Canelo and Triple G. The walls are closing in on really their decision for their next opponent. DAZN as well. I think DAZN ultimately thought having Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin on the roster, having, the ability to, create your own time slots and dictate. I think they thought Canelo versus Golovkin trilogy was a for sure thing. Like, they thought they can make that fight happen. Put Triple G in with the Steve Rolls. Canelo fought Jacobs. They both won, and they thought it was a guaranteed thing. They can use the hype from Canelo Triple G 1 and 2 that HBO put on from their promotion, who's no longer in the boxing business. And then they would be able to manifest Canelo Triple G 3. But for whatever reason, it's appearing that there's different accords over there with Golden Boy Canelo, Team Canelo, and DAZN. I think Triple G is pretty vocal about wanting the fight. I think at one point he even said he's 95% sure that the Canelo Triple G 3 happens, and he's a partner with DAZN, so he was like very confident that the fight would happen this year, if he got past Steve Rolls, which he did. And that doesn't seem to be the case. From what's been reported, it looks like DAZN is willing to approve two opponents, either Canelo versus Triple G or Canelo versus Kovalev. And it does not look like Canelo wants to fight Triple G. He doesn't want to give him the payday. He doesn't, want the fight, whatever. He doesn't want to put no money in his pocket, whatever the situation is. So that's created a whole nother situation. The IBF ordered Canelo, the new IBF champion, because he beat Daniel Jacobs, to fight Sergiy Derevyanchenko, or come up with a valid excuse or reason and, maybe another interim fight that they should consider for Canelo to not have to fight Derevyanchenko. What did Canelo's team do? They blew it off. So the deadline is already passed, which means if the teams haven't negotiated by the deadline, then it would go to a purse bid auction style for the fight. Unless, of course, Canelo Alvarez would like to vacate the belt, which a lot of people speculate, as opposed to fighting Derevyanchenko on DAZN. He would instead just vacate the belt that he just won in May, fighting Daniel Jacobs. This is a bad look because he just basically got stripped of the WBC for, not wanting to fight Jermall Charlo. So they created a position to soften the blow, called him the franchise champion, and elevated Jermall Charlo to his old belt, just the regular full WBC belt. And off the heels of that, a guy that Triple G did not face in favor of fighting Vanes Martirosyan, Canelo's being met and presented with the same, task, because Derevyanchenko's still ranked. He fought Jacobs in a close contested fight, and now it's Canelo as a champion. It's his responsibility. The thing that makes this worse is Canelo, if they had a running game plan of what they were going to do, they could have possibly said, hey, we got a bigger fight, Canelo versus Kovalev. Canelo Triple G is, that's done. So we're requesting an exemption. And then at that point, the ball wouldn't be in Team Canelo's court, and they could request an exemption, and hopefully the IBF approves it. But they just disregarded all of it. So to me, that suggests an era of kind of pompous, like they don't care what the, they're not going to be dictated to. So if it comes down to being stripped or having to relinquish the belt, they'd rather just give up the belt. They don't have to follow any guidelines or policies and procedures. They could do whatever they want. That's the idea that I get. Now Derevyanchenko, who's the mandatory, says, and I quote, he's doing an interview, I expect Canelo Alvarez to avoid me, and he won't give me the opportunity to fight him despite the IBF's decision. Gennady Golovkin, he comes in next on the IBF's list. I can't wait to find out what kind of decision he will make. Is he going to refuse to fight again? Man, you couldn't even predict this type of plot twist and drama. And Canelo can win the ESPN ESPYs. That's fan voted. But, you know, I don't know who voted or whatever. He got best boxer. He's a very good, talented boxer. But the recent news that has transpired with Canelo, not a good look. It's not a good look for DAZN. They all fight on DAZN. Again, Canelo became a franchise champion. He has not said anything, you know, to speak out about not wanting to be the franchise champion, which further lets me know that he's in on it. He's okay with not fighting Jermall Charlo, because if he had intentions of fighting Jermall Charlo, despite he has the type of pool, and despite the WBC's decision to randomly make him franchise him and make him a franchise champion, right? He could easily have come out and said, no, that's not fair. I want the respect of the fans. I want to fight Jermall Charlo. I don't want to just, you know, him get my old belt. So we're fighting to see who's the real WBC champion. He hasn't once even mentioned Charlo. So that lets me know that this was agreed upon beforehand. So that happened. He's not fighting Charlo, and then now he's being ordered to fight Derevyanchenko, and Derevyanchenko believes that he's going to avoid him just like Triple G avoid him. Then now the ball's going to be back in Triple G's court to see if he does the same thing he did last year. Man, it's getting real messy around here. Triple G, when Canelo failed a drug test that people keep forgetting about, Canelo failed a drug test just last year, right? He was ineligible to compete Cinco de Mayo weekend, the Mexican dates, quote unquote, which he wants, you know, so badly. May, Cinco de Mayo, and September. He was unable to compete because he failed a drug test. Golovkin said, that's his business. I still want to fight. You know, I want to fight on the selected date. Then the same thing happened. They were trying to find a suitable opponent. Triple G didn't want to risk, you know, a future Canelo fight, so he basically cherry picked. And they tried to get Jaime Munguia before he was a champion. No one had heard of him. And Nevada State Athletic Commission was like, no, he's inexperienced. We're not going to sanction this guy to, you know, get slaughtered potentially on our watch when he's not, you know, he hasn't done anything to be fighting a champion like that. The IBF told Triple G he needs to fight Sergiy Derevyanchenko. They said, okay, we get you can't control what happened, but seeing how you're not fighting Canelo, we would have got out of the way for that big fight for boxing. But since you're not fighting him and you're continuing to fight, you got to fight your mandatory Sergiy Derevyanchenko. Golovkin rather fight Vanes Martirosyan, who was coming off a 2-year layoff, who was a 154-pounder. He had to move up to 160. He had switched his management team from Al Heyman, and he was now with Don King, lost to Edislandi Lara, moving up in weight, coming off of a loss, been on the couch for 2 years. And that's who Triple G rather fight than fighting Derevyanchenko. So the IBF said, okay, you couldn't control Canelo Alvarez failing the drug test. Cool. But you got to fight Derevyanchenko in your next fight. That's it. And then Triple G said, okay, whatever, with no intentions of fighting Derevyanchenko. So guess what? He didn't negotiate with Derevyanchenko immediately after destroying Vanes Martirosyan in 2 rounds. And he didn't negotiate with Derevyanchenko's side within a certain amount of time that was allotted and was agreed upon beforehand. So the IBF says, all right, we got no choice but to strip you. So Triple G got stripped instead of fighting Derevyanchenko. Now, he could have either dropped the date and maybe that wouldn't have happened, or fought Derevyanchenko instead of Vanes Martirosyan to fight. You know, Derevyanchenko definitely undefeated at that time. It would have been a better fight than Vanes Martirosyan. And, you know, he chose the path of least resistance. So now, if Canelo does vacate to fight Kovalev or Jaime Munguia or whoever he's going to fight, if he doesn't fight Golovkin, Canelo will probably have to get rid of that IBF belt. Then the next person on the list to compete with Derevyanchenko again is going to be Triple G. So if Triple G decides to, you know, not fight Derevyanchenko a second time in 2 years, what is that going to look like? You know, I'll let you guys answer that. It's pretty much a rhetorical question. So You know, this is a bad look. The walls are closing in, and I think Canelo and Triple G particularly, especially with DAZN, the amount of money they're getting. And I told you this could be a problem with DAZN's pay scale, the way they're paying guys. You know, people are trying to strategize, and they don't have to worry about they don't have the bothers of pay-per-view. You know, DAZN pitched it as the fans, hey, without the hassle of pay-per-view. But that's how the fighters are actually looking at it. You know, because the fans, they still have to order pay-per-view. Anybody that's doing pay-per-view, from UFC to Premier Boxing Champs or Top Rank, if you want to watch Crawford Khan, you got to pay pay-per-view. So what is DAZN even talking about? That whole pay-per-view is dead mantra is a dud. It makes no sense. Pay-per-view is not dead. UFC 238 was on pay-per-view. So you're not doing pay-per-view, but everyone else is. So if you wanted to watch John Jones and, you know, Amanda Nunes versus Holly Holm, that was a really good card. Jorge Masvidal, 5-second knee of Ben Askren, you know, you have to pay pay-per-view. So it's really not dead, you know, and fight fans are going to pay for what events and cards that they want to. If you want to watch Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman, guess what? It's on pay-per-view. So in actuality, DAZN, the fighters are the ones that are kind of exploiting the fact that they don't have to make certain quotas and fight certain opponents and certain threat levels, because they're getting paid handsomely. At least the A-listers like Canelo and Triple G, they're getting paid handsomely whether they fight Steve Rolls or, you know, Jamal Charlo. So this thing is starting to crumble a bit with DAZN, in my opinion, and they got to put their foot down. If they're generating the money, you got to put on the events that, you know, that fans want to see, that keep you competitive with the competition, period. You know, and even the Canelo Triple G3 fight, if it happens, I don't even think that's what boxing wants or needs or is asking for. For whatever reason, DAZN has this instilled in their mind that Canelo versus Kovalev or Canelo Triple G are just massive fights. But then they got a guy who Kovalev is with Top Rank and Main Events and ESPN, and they would rather work with another promoter, you know, and split the pot and put Canelo in a dangerous fight or somewhat dangerous fight 2 divisions above than to give Demetrius Andrade, who's already in-house. And Canelo's last few opponents have been Eddie Hearn fighters, Danny Jacobs and Rocky Fielding. You know, why not work with Eddie Hearn again and because Eddie Hearn represents Demetrius Andrade as well. That's an in-house fight. It seems easy to make Demetrius Andrade. He already said he was down to fight. You know, this is just a terrible look any way you slice it. So I can't wait for Canelo and Triple G to decide on what they want to do. And, you know, the world's going to be paying attention. Derevyanchenko, he doesn't have faith that Canelo will fight him. And, you know, then it falls on Triple G if Canelo doesn't fight him. And we're going to see how he plays it, because he was already in this position, and we know what he did. He opted to fight Vanes Martirosyan with no intentions of fighting Derevyanchenko. So for whatever reason, you know, people are looking at Derevyanchenko as a risk, you know, high risk with low reward type of scenario, because they're not willing to fight him. You know, sometimes you got to bite the bullet and just fight your mandatory. And the funny thing with Triple G particularly is when his mandatories weren't as dangerous, like Dominic Wade, he had no problem fighting that mandatory. You know, nobody wanted to see that fight. Dominic Wade wasn't like a known American commodity. You know, I've at least seen Derevyanchenko a couple of times. I've seen him on undercards for PBC, and most recently, and most importantly, he fought against Danny Jacobs. And then after that, he even fought against Jack Kukule, and he showed he was durable. It was a tough fight and that kind of thing. So, you know, we'll see. The ball's in Canelo and Triple G's court. I can't wait to see what they decide. Let me know what you guys think. We working.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.